Beckett Jazz Club with Fabrizio Montini.
Beckett Jazz Club con Fabrizio Montini. Questo speciale è la seconda parte di un percorso, di un viaggio che abbiamo iniziato già un po' di tempo fa in una scena jazz del tutto atipica, forse molto poco conosciuta, soprattutto in Italia, ma che ci è sembrato doveroso dover omaggiare, dover raccontare, soprattutto grazie a chi la segue o ha avuto modo di seguirla e continua a vederla da vicino. Quindi è un piacere avere di nuovo ospite e qui con me alla conduzione di questo podcast Alessandro Onori da Berlino. Ciao Alessandro, bentornato.
Ciao Fabrizio, grazie e buonasera a chi ascolta.
Alessandro, nella tua esperienza di digger e di collezionista di vinili, le etichette berlinesi ovviamente rappresentano un punto di riferimento. Alcune hanno tracciato veramente la storia della Berlino del jazz, altre invece sono delle piccole gemme da scoprire ed esplorare. Ci sono alcune label imprescindibili e altre che possiamo consigliare a chi ascolta per andare a fare le proprie scelte musicali. Da dove partiamo?
Beh, io partirei dalle etichette storiche e ovviamente è impossibile parlare di Berlino senza citare la FMP, la Free Music Production, che è l'etichetta fondata nel 69 da Peter Brötzmann e da Jos Gebers. Quest'ultimo poi ha continuato l'attività e continua l'attività fino ad oggi. E nel suo catalogo è presente praticamente tutto il meglio degli ultimi 50 anni di improvvisazione, di jazz, free jazz più o meno radicale, europeo e non. A cominciare dal fantastico incontro fra Peter Kowald e Peter Brötzmann, che è un po' rivoluzionato tutta l'improvvisazione, per passare ai vari Vanove, von Schliepenbach, Mischa Mangelberg. Praticamente ognuno se non sbaglio hanno pubblicato intorno ai 300 dischi, se non sbaglio, e diciamo che quasi sempre trovarne uno vuol dire stringere fra le mani un piccolo gioiello musicale. I prezzi ovviamente non sono super accessibili perché è materiale molto, molto ricercato, ma vale assolutamente la pena.
Si trovano soltanto nei, tra collezionisti, oppure anche un appassionato che lo vuole cercare in un negozio ben fornito, in un mercatino di quelli di cui abbiamo parlato nell'occasione del precedente podcast, si possono trovare? Beh,
no, si trovano in giro ovviamente perché l'etichetta, essendo di Berlino, come delle cantine ogni tanto
emerge qualcosa
dalle cantine, però diciamo che chiunque abbia a che fare anche minimamente con i dischi, con la vendita di dischi, quando legge FMP ovviamente controlla, e l'affarone è difficile farlo. Invece è molto carina secondo me da collezionare ed è assolutamente molto più abbordabile come prezzi. Sono i dischi della Amiga. L'Amiga era l'etichetta di Stato della Repubblica Democratica Tedesca, che oltre a pubblicare su licenza i dischi dei Beatles, roba pop, cose più in linea con i dettami del partito all'epoca, aveva anche questa serie molto bella che era la J, caratterizzata dalla J arancione, quindi Amiga Jazz, e anche là sono state pubblicate, anche in cooperazione tra l'altro con la FMP a un certo punto, sono state pubblicate dischi molto interessanti il classicone Keith Jarrett e Curl Concert, ma anche dischi di Ulrich Kumpert o cose un po' più free, un po' più sperimentali, diciamo. E quelli si trovano veramente a ogni mercatino. È un po' come i grandi del jazz della Fabbri, che più o meno spunta più o meno ovunque, e sono cose che porti a casa con pochi soldi e che però sono almeno spesso molto buone, molto jazz per pochi soldi, diciamo.
E questo sicuramente è qualcosa che fa anche dà un valore aggiunto al gusto di trovare delle belle chicche, insomma, musicali in giro, no?
Sì, perché torni a casa con magari con dischi che cercavi, o comunque però con la J arancione porti anche a casa cose magari che non conosci, che però puoi provare perché disponibile a un prezzo più accessibile.
E invece nel mondo delle etichette forse meno conosciute, qualcosa che puoi consigliarci?
Meno conosciute, diciamo, cose contemporanee ce ne sono svariate interessanti. Diciamo che la tendenza è un po' più quella di suonare dal vivo e pubblicare le cose su Bandcamp, quindi in realtà i nomi che abbiamo citato, anche le artiste che presentiamo, se si fa una rapida ricerca su Bandcamp e si allarga un po', diciamo, il campo della ricerca ai collaboratori delle musiciste, si trova anche molto di quello che succede attualmente. Però ce ne sono 3-4 che vale sicuramente la pena di presentare. Una è la X Jazz, si chiama, che pubblica cose più, diciamo, contemporanee, non troppo sperimentali, non troppo free, e organizza però anche un bel festival ogni anno. C'è la Philophone, che è una etichetta strana perché è metà berlinese e metà però basata in Ghana, dove hanno questo Max Weisenfeld, ha uno studio di registrazione, quindi si divide fra sonorità afro con diciamo band trovate in Ghana e gente che suona qua a Berlino. Lui pubblica spesso Jimmy Tenor, Halium Ergia, Idris Ackamore, insomma è piuttosto una bella insalatona mista di musica interessante, spesso su 45 giri, che insomma chi è appassionato, io sono appassionatissimo di 45 giri, è un formato impossibile e meraviglioso allo stesso tempo, quindi è super divertente. Poi c'è la Pleist, che è l'etichetta fondata da Christian Lillinger, che è un batterista incredibilmente talentuoso che suona jazz super contemporaneo in almeno 20 progetti diversi, e pubblica attraverso la sua etichetta le proprie cose, che sono sempre spesso più sul versante sperimentale. Lui, essendo un batterista, ovviamente lavora tantissimo coi ritmi, ma sempre in maniera poco usuale e molto, molto sperimentale, diciamo. Poi l'ultima aggiunta, diciamo, nel mio il mio cadeau di etichette è la Umlaut, che è un'etichetta che è fondata da musicisti svedesi che poi si sono divisi tra Berlino e Parigi. Io ho conosciuto il versante berlinese in un locale che frequento, che è l'Autopsy Hall, che organizza concerti meravigliosi, spesso di improvvisazione, e a cui funge anche un po' da base per Joel Grip, che è questo bassista svedese che, diciamo, è uno dei due che ha fondato l'etichetta, e anche loro pubblicano cose tra poesia sonora e sperimentazione. Hanno pubblicato 2 dischi di questo gruppo incredibile che si chiama Ahmed, e che consiglio vivamente di cercare, perché è un trio che prende le melodie suonate all'epoca da Ahmed Abdul Malik, che era il bassista di una delle band di Thelonious Monk, e fu uno dei primi che utilizzò melodie medio-orientali all'interno delle proprie composizioni. Tutto questo avveniva nei primissimi anni 60, e loro prendono le sue melodie, i suoi spunti, e li rivedono in salsa come dire, minimalistico ripetitiva. Quindi c'è è un miscuglio stranissimo e veramente, secondo me, eccezionale fra jazz, melodie orientali, minimalismo, che si evolve, che si ripete, che si evolve, che è veramente incredibile, secondo me.
Grazie Alessandro per averci dato questi spunti per andare a scoprire e cercare sia le etichette che hanno fatto la storia del jazz berlinese, sia le nuove label o comunque quelle più underground, se vogliamo usare questo termine abusato, che invece hanno sicuramente dei piccoli tesori da scoprire nei loro cataloghi. È il momento però di dare spazio alle ospiti di questa sera, che sono Els Vandeweyer e Mia Dyberg. Anche loro, come le ospiti della prima parte di questo podcast dedicato alla scena jazz berlinese, saranno ospiti ai nostri microfoni in 2 lunghe interviste, delle quali ringrazio già da adesso Alessandro per aver curato anche l'editing e per quello che riguarda le domande che abbiamo posto alle artiste. Direi quindi di immergerci sicuramente in questa playlist, che cercherà di bilanciare il lavoro fatto da Els e da Mia in questi anni, con anche degli inediti che scopriremo più avanti, soprattutto verso la fine del podcast, grazie appunto a questo regalo che ci ha fatto Mia Dyberg. Ma è il momento di partire con Els Vandeweyer, 2 tracce in sequenza, Snug as a Gun con il progetto Ime Collective dall'omonimo album uscito su Clean Feed nel 2006, e poi Pannonica, una traccia che gli amanti del jazz non hanno difficoltà ad identificare chi sia l'autore, che Els Vandeweyer ha realizzato per questo album il 2019 debut, etichetta Wasser. È il momento della musica qui al Beckett Jazz Club con Alessandro Onori e Fabrizio Montini.
Beckett Jazz Club with Fabrizio Montini. Beckett Jazz Club.
Beckett Jazz Club with Fabrizio Montini and Alessandro Onori. It is our pleasure to welcome Els Vandeweyer, Belgian vibraphonist, percussionist and composer active on the Berlin scene. After studying classical percussion in Antwerp and jazz vibraphone in Brussels and Oslo, Els co-founded the IMI Collective, with which she released a highly recommended album in 2006, and today also plays in Berlin when it would be possible, as she played in solo performances, group improvisation, and contemporary music performances. Her artistic experience included a duo and quartet with Fred Vandeweyer, Pascal Nigenkamper Vision 7, the Serenus Zeitblum Octet, and collaborations with Hans Oostern and Real Guides. And in 2019, Elsa released her first album as a leader, entitled Debut. Hi, Els. Nice to meet you.
Hey, thanks for having me here. Of course. Hi.
Many recent collaborations we will highlight here in our podcast. One is with your participation in the Sonic Fiction Orchestra. In 2020, a record was released with this important German free improv pianist and composer, Georg Grave, and his ensemble. Grave has worked with many important figures on the avant-garde jazz scene, and I would like to ask you, how did you your encounter with the music of the Sonic Fiction Orchestra come about?
Yeah, with Georg Greve, he discovered me quite quick. Like, he was teaching in Hans Eisner Institute. It's a high school for music here. And he had some young composers, students, which there were a lot, we are cooperating before with each other. And it must have been one of the students that told me, hey, you should learn to know Elle. She can play written music, but she can improvise, and she's maybe somebody you could work with. And then 2009, we had already our first duo concert in Vienna. It was in Blue Tomato. My Smiles. And we really clicked, and also in thinking, and we never work a lot together, but we always were there. Like Ruhr 2010, we were also doing the Sonic Fiction already. So now we're 10 years later, and it was again complicated. Like, yeah, but it's cool that he recognized me somehow.
Wow. So it's a long friendship and a long partnership.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So, but your beginnings are quite far from Berlin. So you studied in Oslo, you studied in Antwerp, and you founded in 2006 the IMI Collective in Lisbon.
Yeah.
You recorded an album with a Portuguese rhythm section, I think in cooperation with Clean Feet. So
yes.
What's your opinion about the whole Portuguese scene there, which strikes are quite vibrant, and I mean lots of records are being published there. Is it your experience too?
I can only talk about my experience, which is really 2015, 2016. I lived there almost for a year. And I had my band there, and I was really good friends with Pedro Costa from Clean Feet. I even had my rehearsal space in the Tren Azul, who is not existing anymore. It was a record store, and I had my room, and there are all these records, and I had a record player in my room, and that's how I discovered like free jazz. I saw my first free jazz concert in Portugal. Like in Belgium, I'd never seen a thing like that, and it was like an evening, and his Hot Club de Lisboa, Billy Hart put his cymbals on, Joachim Kuhn plays like saxophone at that time, and then Jason Moran was playing piano, and that really blew my mind. So no, I have not been there for many years, or when I was there, I was for holidays there with my friends or family, and meeting my best friends, like Peter Bastian, like he's old school guy, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know really the scene if these festivals are not happening. I mean, where is the scene now?
But what's interesting about your story now is that you got your first contact with the free jazz scene in
Portugal.
But actually you studied jazz before that, isn't it right?
I studied 3 years classical percussion in Antwerp, and then I started all over again for jazz and continued contemporary classical music. But then when I was in Portugal, yes, it's the 3rd year of my jazz studies in Brussels.
It was a huge influence for you, the whole...
Yeah, because, now we have these concerts, but it's like once in a while a concert. And in Belgium, I really had to escape from there because improvised music was really just not really existing. You had Fred van Hove, and I didn't come to him through Belgium. It came through because Kika Greve, he knew Martin Bloemen, a percussion player in Bochum, and he told Fred van Hove, maybe we should play with Els. It's a bit, or Ute Wasserman was in between this scene more. That like they are a bit like me, like we are not the scene itself, but we have like feet in different scenes.
So it's kind of more isolated players that have some touch point.
Yeah, definitely, and it's strong what I do, but they are just musicians who work different.
How come that you moved then to Berlin after?
Yeah, I lived a year in Portugal. I lived a year in Oslo, and you hear a lot about Berlin. And with the students, with Erasmus students in Brussels from Dresden, I was back and forward already. And I just had this feeling like, oh wow, I can just develop my voice here without having a fight, to have to fight for something. It's just you're right. And it's in Belgium, it was or the police came, or the bartender tells, we don't like this kind of music. And I felt like I always have to do a compromise. And I had the feeling in the city I could just develop my language in the tempo I want without compromising too much. So,
Lina Lemano, we had an interview with her 2-3 weeks ago. She also told us that Berlin is a very welcoming scene. Like, she also didn't need much time to get in touch with people and start playing together. So this is also your experience.
Yes and no. I mean, welcoming, yes, you can go to all the small concerts and people do quick sessions with each other, but it's very spread out. If you compare a scene, I was a month almost in Chicago, and then the first night you arrive and you go out, and that's all the people where you're gonna play with. Or I moved in a house and I was next to a jam session and these are the other ones. Like it's like a small group, 30 to 50 people that always meet. And it's like one family thing. And this is not at all in Berlin. What makes it also nice in a way, but it's super different and welcoming, I don't know.
It's not as easy as Chicago, you mean?
Yeah, I have the feeling Chicago was much more welcoming to me than I can here be for others.
Okay. We should ask Lina about Chicago. Hear the difference. So your debut album as a leader was released here in Berlin by 90% Wasser. And it's a live performance recorded at the KM28, which is a venue in Neukölln, which has set quite a big foot in the scene in the last 2 or 3 years, specializing in jazz and new music. So, but if we look back at your playing, it has been almost 20 years of playing. So
it's 30 years. It's more than 30 years.
Sorry. Because of your family background, yeah. So why did this decision to make a solo album come so late in your career? I mean, it took almost 30 years.
Yes, it was the first opportunity to make a record on vinyl. I got opportunities to make CDs, but I don't know. I wanted to make something more resistant for the time, so I waited till I got the offer for the LP, and they did a great offer. So.
Okay, so it's a formal thing. That's nice to hear. I mean,
Maybe the underneath is, okay, I did recordings, maybe never got the chance to bring them out, but I really wanted to record, it's true. But also there is this fear of being put in one box. And I think I needed a lot of time because it's your first one. And I don't want to, okay, this is my thing and I go straight on. But it's a hybrid thing of different things that are just next to each other. And I didn't want to lock me down like in one box. So it took me, I think, a while to come to that form. Like, who am I? Where I am standing for.
Was it a fear? I mean, you improvise a lot. So
yeah.
Kind of a little bit of fear to kind of freeze your improvisation in time or something like this. I mean,
this is one thing, or being seen only as an improviser.
One thing that strikes is your playing style. Besides mallets, use a variety of objects to generate sounds. Metal balls, plates, chains, special gloves, and so on. So on one side there is the sound research. At the same time you manage to remain melodic. Is this something inherited from your classic percussion studies, or were you actively trying to extend the expressive possibilities of the instrument to reflect what you imagine should it sound?
It comes from the two sides. Like on one hand, okay, I grew up 7 years old playing snare drum in a brass band, and melody, emotion, all these things has been always for me associated with music. And then you come to Berlin, where suddenly sound is the main thing in the music. Like the melody get reduced, the rhythm get reduced. It's all about sounds, dynamics, and I was in this scene, but I'm not 100% there because I was missing something. I'm too energetic or something. Like, I'm not gonna set up my vibraphone for playing one note and wait 20 minutes and play another note. So I mean, there are amazing people in this scene, but I just had to for myself, tell like, okay, no. This is not you, and then I start coming back to my roots or something with my skills and my techniques.
One other thing we saw, it's a lovely video of you explaining with great passion some Ludwig van Beethoven. Great. Have you still got an ear towards classical music? Are you planning something in that direction, or is it something that belongs to the past?
No. It's something that comes still on the path. Like, they asked this last year, and it was more like, okay, do you want to participate? And I was like, oh my God, I have no idea which piece. I don't like Beethoven at all. So, but it's like an opportunity to get some money, and I love looking into things for music. I love to understand or like to understand different kinds of music. So I didn't want to reject this job. And then just a friend told me, I explained him, he's actually the boss or the guy of KM28. And he was like, yeah, Els, do you know these Diabelli variations? And he explained me, I was like, okay, I give it a chance. And then even now, this is the 100 years vibraphone this year. And they do something in Hamburg, Blurred Edges Festival. And there I have to play it again. And I have to play some Debussy, and there are going to be more contemporary pieces. But they wanted to have me playing 6 pieces. But I'm like, wow, I need so long to learn them. Like, I love looking in it. I did this Xenakis, Reborn. It's fantastic, like going through it, but I cannot do it as quick as a person who only does this. But I think it's important that some other people also play this music, that not only play classical music, to take your feel into it too. So many things you can't notate, so it's very up to who plays.
Mm-hmm. So you mean kind of disrupting a little bit this whole classical music, as a classical musicians thing.
Yeah, this was a bit disrupted me. With this Xenakis, everybody was playing it in the school. I was doing already jazz, but then with these drumsticks on bongos, and I thought I got crazy. It sounded so bad. But I did 3 weeks to find the right sticks, and I developed completely other techniques than one teacher telling you, you have to play like this. Because it's not possible to play, you have to find solutions, but it's nicer to have the time to look for your own solution. Mm-hmm. And I think this needs this music too, not like this one way of performing.
Yeah, one thing I would love to hear something about the project with Rob Mazurek, the Exploding Star International, because that was one of the concerts I saw you. And the thing that's strong is that on stage you manage, even if in a big orchestra, to cut out for yourself a space for you in the whole sonic spectrum of what was going on. It was really amazing. So I would love to hear something about it, because actually some months ago he also published a record from based on that work. What's your remembrance of
Yeah, I don't know. It's a big thing. You don't have so much time together, but we don't have it in Berlin so much, like one person who gives the music and then quick you have to play it together. So this hierarchy is back. It's not improvisation, but it's great how he does it and which band he get. What for a band? Hamid Drake, Chet Taylor next to me. It was really great. Like, if having these 2 drummers, like you're always wishing one and then you have 2 of them. It's amazing. Yeah, and I know the Chicago scene and I know the Berlin scene. So it's nice to hear that I don't know how it comes across, but I found it a bit funny that he tries or he combines these 2 worlds. But it's always, I don't know if it really works.
So it was a good experience for you.
Definitely. We had a lot of fun.
Okay, that's nice to hear. And I think we have time for another question. And I mean, we have been through a tough year, but I know that you somewhere you said that you work on your music every day and you see it as a working progress. So are you planning something new? Are you planning to release something? What's cooking in Els's?
Yeah, I have quite a surprise. I did a new recording in the end of last December, actually in the lockdown already. And then it's coming out on cassette tape, like in a couple of months. Like the mix we just did, but it's not on vibraphone. It's I play trash guitar since 2013. I did some concerts, like some are on the internet, and then I made really some songs. I was like, wow, this is something I always wanted to do. I got this opportunity with the label Costa Capablanca, more electronical music label, but for me he's a nice guy, so I do it, and it's cool because I have with theater more this setup of vibraphone, bass drum, small percussion and trash guitar, because I miss this in the vibraphone, this kind of rock and roll sound, like something dirty. The vibraphone, I do with my preparations different sounds, but somehow I don't know, maybe it's an expression of the thrust I have with my own instrument. But it was really cool to do, and I'm super happy with the result. So. It's not the first time that you kind of, I don't know, I have the impression that you have a conflict going on between you and my instrument. Yes. I read something about the sound being limited, and so that you found new ways to play it. No, true. And I played in Leipzig, and a friend of mine comes after, and she's like, "Are you okay? Are you fine? Like, yeah, you're so aggressive on it now on your instrument." I don't know. I don't know. Let's see.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Maybe to carry this always around, and no, that's why I did the trash guitar too. Like there's small, really cool festivals, but I cannot for 50 euros bring my instrument anymore. So there is an alternative. Like it's like, okay, you wanna have me around, I'm happy to play, but there is something smaller.
Okay, I think we have asked all the things we planned, and I would like to thank you, Els, for being with us, and we hope to hear your new work very soon. And both Alessandro, me and Alessandro want to thank you for, and I thank Alessandro for introducing me to your music, and it's very special for me. And I hope you can be soon in Italy. We'll appreciate you in a concert or a festival when it will be possible, especially with one of your performance or solo performance.
And hopefully with Lina, with the quartet. This would be great with Maike and Lina and Lucia.
Beckett Jazz Club with Fabrizio Montini. Beckett Jazz Club. Beckett Jazz Club with Fabrizio Montini. Beckett Jazz Club
It's my pleasure to welcome Mia Dyberg, Danish and Swedish saxophonist, improviser and composer, currently residing in Berlin, where she works as a freelance musician in the fields of jazz and contemporary free improvisation. Mia is also part of a Copenhagen jazz improv scene, holds a master diploma in music from the Conservatory of Copenhagen, and she grew up in the Swedish archipelago, but her wild and impressionist music is affected also by grand nature and also by the pulse of the city. Mia plays regularly in Berlin, when she has been residing since 2016, including solo performance, group improvisations, and duets, and many more projects under her name. Hi Mia, welcome to the Beckett Jazz Club. Nice to meet you.
Hello Fabrizio.
With me today, Alessandro Onori, as usual. Hi Alessandro, ciao.
Hello Alessandro.
Ciao Mia, ciao Fabrizio.
Before giving the floor to Alessandro, I would like to ask you a question right away. First of all, we would love to hear more about your artistic path, your studies, and how you discovered jazz and improvisation.
Yes. I think a lot of my discovery of improvisation came from learning how to play music with my father when I was a child. And we learned how to play in a very spontaneous and playful way. Learning how to improvise with one note to start with, and then two notes, just discovering the music. And then also growing up in the countryside, I had already from the beginning a close connection to nature, which then also affected my music. But it's maybe a bit too broad answer to your question. I'm not sure. But also important thing is, of course, that I went to the conservatory in Copenhagen. So I had my education from this jazz conservatory. So I have a background in jazz and how to say university. But the Copenhagen conservatory is very free and very open. And you have a lot of space for individual exploration and learning your identity, also in the conservatory, with free improvisation. But and then also when I came to Berlin in 2016, it was more like a decision, like now I will dedicate much more time on developing my free improvisational language, where I will choose to live in a city where I can get a lot of improvisation experience with free improvisation and improvising musicians.
Talking about you coming to Berlin, this is the second appointment with let's say a Berlin special about the Berlin scene, and we already had the stories from Els, from Lisa Alemano, Olga, and it's quite interesting how many different paths brought you musicians here to Berlin.
I remember visiting Berlin. I'm from Denmark, and Danish people, they would usually visit Berlin often. Like it's like a bit like a Danish summer house for Danish people. It's like they go to Berlin to go on holiday, and at some point for me, I was interested in the very strong improvised music that was in Berlin, and I made my first improvising trio. Like that was only improvisation, and we went on our first tour to Berlin in 2012. And then I was going to a lot of concerts, like only on a visitor. And I kept coming back the following years, either playing or mostly playing some concerts and then visiting a lot of concerts. So the point is that I discovered that here is a very rich improvised scene, and there's a lot to learn here. And then also there is a very including scene. Like the people are very like, I remember this, you won't go to a concert, you start talking to somebody and they're like, oh, should we have a session tomorrow? Oh, so you're a musician, okay, so should we play tomorrow? Or should we play next week? Like there was a very like direct contact between the musicians, which I liked and I was interested in. And then I did my master, and at some point we could choose to go abroad for a year on the master, and then I wanted to go to Berlin to experience that and try it out. And then after the conservatory, I decided to move here to be a part of this including improvised scene.
And one thing, looking at your discography, the first thing that strikes is that you are super prolific, and the second thing, you just mentioned one, it's that you play, you love the duo form of playing together. So what we would love to hear, it's what's so fascinating about it, what it's that makes you play with so many musicians.
I think for me, I really like the direct interaction. So it would be like you're the two persons, the two individuals, and then it's very direct. Like you will hear, especially in free improvisation, because then you will just hear those two people. Like when me and Rieko Okuda plays together, you hear our language together. You cannot hide by a big, if there's a big orchestra or something, it will somehow, you don't hear the individual sound, you hear a group sound, which also can be very lovely. But in this case, you hear the individuals, so you can really, in this case, it also becomes very important who the individuals are. I mean, so you have to have somehow two strong, distinctive players to have to make a duo work somehow. Or like it's also, it's important who you play with, even more in a way.
You play a lot with duo, but at the same time, you are very open to collective experiences, like Club Dybbroe, and you, if I'm correct, you even started one, the community. Could you maybe tell us something more about them? What makes them so relevant in your life?
Yes, the community I started together with, or Nana P and me started it. Nana P is a tenor saxophone player from Copenhagen. We started it in 2014, and it was actually a reaction to both of us visiting Berlin. We were both going to Berlin a lot and being very interested in the Berlin scene and very interested in this inclusivity, or this way of including each other. And then we wanted to bring back this including an interactive way. And it's also developed a lot like this. And then we became a Verein, what you say in German, a union, or how to say, with more people. So now we have more board members, like including the bass player Asger Thomsen, the bass player Jonathan Aardestrup, and the graphic designer Jan Panev, and the drummer Halim Kim, and the saxophone player Mia Dyberg. and then we organize events like as a union. And here we come back to together you become stronger. Like, so it's a really great thing, because for example, if Asger would make an event, he makes it in the community's name, and then we can reach somehow a broader audience. So like we have a fan base which we want to reach. We reach out to the whole fan base of the community, like all the people who went to the previous events. They get this newsletter where they can get the information about the next events. And now this sentence got extremely long, but I can also another positive thing with the communities now, it's expanded even more, because now the International Improvisers Collective, the community from Copenhagen, became a part of a bigger European project called Share Project, which is together with Italy actually, and also with France, where for example, there's just now been making a database for improvised musicians, where you can look up different cities or what information you need, or if you need housing in the city, you can search on the city. And this is so wonderful, because this was one of the dreams I also had with starting the community, if you could make this database to make it easier to make musicians' life easier. So it's not always starting from the beginning, but you can help each other and use your experience to help others. And because we all know so much, but if we can put it together, we know more. How to say.
So that's the community, and also Club Dybbroe was also really something that has been born in the Petersburg art space, if I'm not wrong, and you used to play there every week.
Yes.
Yeah, right. But it's a kind of different kind of experience, I guess.
Yeah, it's a Dadaistic collective, improvisation collective, and it's interesting in another way, because it's more a dedicated musical experience. Also, it's and it's with this really experienced improvisers, which has been a really great journey for me also to learn a lot about form from playing in the Club Dybbroe, because we work a lot with form in a way, and telling stories in the improvisation, how to say, and this Dadaistic language. I really liked about being a part of this every Monday Club Dybbroe is that we could really go deep into our improvisational language, because we have this several years of collaborating with each other, like years and years and years, and this is somehow really good for open improvisation, I think, because it creates this trust and confidence in yourself and the other, because we have so much experience with, like, okay, we did this before, yeah, it worked somehow, just to get that experience and to try so many different colors together, how to say. This, I think, is very important. It's very healthy also with trust for improvisation, I think.
So back to your discography again. I think half of the covers, that's something you already mentioned before, that half of the covers depict landscapes or nature. You even used a picture of a forest in a record called Home. Yet you have chosen to live in Berlin. Is this a dichotomy, or is this something that how does this work?
It's a dichotomy. I have to say it's duality. You have, I think, a lot of my life is duality, or there's a lot of somehow both sidedness, how to say. But yeah, this thing about city or nature, I am often thinking, especially nowadays, wow, it would be wonderful to live in the countryside. But I would still somehow miss something from the city. But I can maybe specifically talk about the home cover or that album. Yeah, that was also about finding a new home, or finding a home in nature, or feeling at home in nature. And somehow every human can always return to nature. I have to say, if your home is unsafe, or if there's a chaotic time in your life where we can return to nature. There's also, of course, chaotic times in nature, but if we presume that the nature would be calm, and then you can always use nature as somehow a home, or to create a new home for yourself.
And there's also another aspect which is fascinating. There is some of your stuff, like the birds playing with you on home, or you recording after hiking with Fischerlehner, that reminds me of some older stuff, like the famous Schwarzwaldfahrt LP from Brötzmann and Henning. I mean, it's this whole jazz in the nature thing. It's kind of feels like a little known, a little practiced jazz tradition in a certain way. And so my question would be, what are your references in which players or composers do you go back when you are studying or just listening to music?
Yes, I have listened to a lot of different kind of music and composers. So I wanted to approach your question kind of chronologically. So think about what I did this year and last year, or like what I did recently. Something I did in 2020 was that I wanted to learn more about contemporary or more experimental composers, which I did not know so much about. So it was a new experience for me to learn about composers as Varese, Ives, Schäfer, Brown. To take some small ideas from them and then to try to transform it into my own language, composition language, or just to expand my listening. That's something I did specifically this in 2020. And at home, I think I listen a lot to jazz, actually, such as Monk or Sonra, and so some Danish improvised jazz or composed new music, so as Jakob Anderskov. I think something I always return to is like Sonra and Cecil Taylor. Monk, Thelonious Monk. Sometimes I need a break then from if I listen a lot to Monk. Now I have a bit of a break from him, for example, because I listen maybe a bit too much, and then I can return to it later. But I think also there's always so much more music to discover, but I also enjoy sometimes to listen to Feldman or Steve Lacy, Talking Heads, Henry Threadgill, Jimmy Lyons. But you're also asking about composition. I think also I've been studying a little bit of Braxton. I mean, that was more in 2019. I tried to play some of his pieces, and this can be really healthy for the playing and also to practice reading it and getting some of the ideas into the system. A lot about 5 groupings and 7 groupings he uses a lot, and I mean it's very simplified because his language is extremely complicated, but somehow I'm interested in that. Somehow his 5 and 7 groups, phrasings. Yeah.
I think it doesn't get any harder than Braxton, doesn't it?
Yeah, something I think I'm good at is just accepting that I cannot understand everything, and then just taking a small part from it. For example, from Braxton, like I just kind of look at it and then I try to see, okay, what could I get inspired about? So then we have, for example, the 5 and the 7 groupings. I can use that and then practice that, but I don't have to understand all of it. This can be a very strong, easy way to get inspired. To accept that you cannot learn everything about it.
I would like to ask you if you tell us more about this inspiration from Burroughs in the music of your trio.
Yes. Yeah. We can actually refer back a bit to what we already talked about, that taking a small part from something that you're inspired about, or like, okay, let's say William Burroughs is also a very elaborate artist somehow. There's very many different sides of him, how to say, and his output. And then I would take somehow the feeling or the vibe from some of his poems, and I would also take the rhythm from his speaking. In 2016, when I first discovered Burroughs, I would listen to the recordings of him reading his poems, and this was one of my ways of composing at that time, was to listen to the rhythm of his voice and then improvise with the saxophone on top of that, and then record that, and then transcribe my recording or take some of the ideas out and use them for a new composition. That's how, for example, Will's Swing on the Ticket CD was made. I listened to the swing of his voice. Somehow I found something in it that was inspiring to me, and then I played to it. And also listening to some of the radio cut-ups he did, like they have a very distinctive sound, or how to say, which we try to also use when we were in the studio. We also listened to his recordings in the studio, and then we made improvisations right after that, which, for example, became this Close Out on the Ticket CD. Is an improvisation after we heard William Burroughs read, like his audio in the studio was played in the speakers, and then we improvised, like directly after that we improvised and tried to improvise on the vibe, how to say, from his reading, his voice, or the atmosphere that was created somehow.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you were so kind to give us 2 unreleased tracks from your trio, and maybe you can tell us something about them, and then we will play them after the interview.
Yes. The unreleased tracks from the trio is from a live concert in 2020 in the summer, where we played at Jazz Denmark's event Unlock Music, which were event that was concerts outside in different nature locations, and this was in front of a castle, in front of the ocean between Sweden and Denmark, so like really super nature location. That was like the best for me. Like, but then we also had the pleasure, how to say, to play my new compositions, and they are also again this motific narrative motific composing, which I do a lot, where I use somehow a narrative motive to guide the trio, how to say, or to not really guide, but to shoot it off somehow, to start the piece with a motif, and then we go out in this exploration or improvisations, which is collective. But Yeah, we work a lot with this motifically, both with the 65 motif, which is the first unreleased track, and also in the second track. And the first track, the 65 motif and ostinate, it's somehow some kind of a melodic cell, or how to say, the motif works as a cell that we use in the further musical development. So in the first minute of 65, you hear the narrative saxophone motif, and then you go to this explosive saxophone phrases, and then you have this captivating time-stretching bass ostinate. And this is also something I really like, to have this time-stretched bass ostinate, something that is like both ritardando and accelerando at the same time, how to say. This you could also refer a little bit to William Berg's, possibly with the cut-up techniques and the starting and stopping. So this is also a way I am inspired by Berg's, you could say, by using this time stretching. Yeah.
Beckett Jazz Club with Fabrizio Montini. Beckett Jazz Club.
Beckett Jazz Club con Fabrizio Montini e Alessandro Onori. Abbiamo ascoltato la voce di Mia Dyberg, che ci ha portato nel suo mondo, nella sua musica, le sue esperienze davvero interessanti, in cui ha sperimentato con diverse formazioni, con musicisti di altrettanto talento, mettendo molto del suo vissuto, delle sue esperienze personali. Sia Mia che Els ci hanno raccontato quanto è stato difficile affrontare questi lunghi mesi di lockdown da un punto di vista artistico, da un punto di vista compositivo, ma nonostante questo loro, come molti altri artisti, hanno ritrovato uno spirito per rimettersi a scrivere, a studiare e a comporre. Il risultato sono delle uscite che presto potremo apprezzare finalmente, di grande qualità, come tutte le loro produzioni. Abbiamo ascoltato di Mia Dyberg con Matthias Müller Wild Pointillism, una lunghissima suite di circa 27 minuti che abbiamo cercato di farvi apprezzare per un frammento, e poi un inedito, Ritardando e Adventurous, di Mia Dyberg con il suo trio. Ed è proprio con un altro inedito che Mia ci ha regalato insieme alla sua formazione in trio che concludiamo questa seconda parte del podcast dedicato alla scena jazz berlinese, questa seconda parte per la quale ringrazio di nuovo Alessandro Onori. Grazie Alessandro per essere stato con noi, per averci condotto insieme per mano alla scoperta di Berlino.
Grazie Fabrizio, e grazie a chi ci ha ascoltato fino adesso.
65 Mia Dyberg Trio al Beckett Jazz Club. Ciao e appuntamento al prossimo podcast.
Till next time. From Beckett Jazz Club.